Hey everyone, this is Jeff, Swing Trade Warrior with WarriorTrading.com. Happy March. Interesting start to the month here. SPY is definitely breaking out of longer term resistance here, and I think we're probably going to end up seeing a $200 test here in the very near future. I suspect we may trade in this range for a little while, like we did back here in September. If we get over 200, then all the longs will be happy and everything will be right with the world again. In the meantime, there is going to be a lot of speculation and probably a lot of light volume days lacking some follow-through. Today the SPY traded less than 100% of its average relative volume, which is actually 98%, which is a lot higher than it has been trading previously on these up moves. So that's an indicator that volume might be coming back in to the market. You can see we have this big move up off the bottom here from the 180 to today, 10% move, just under 200 here, but you can see it was on declining volume, right? So this is a good indicator that there's not a lot of buying interest right now from large volume investors, institutions, big money, things like that. So just something to keep in mind. Doesn't really mean anything. As part of the process, every day I go through after the market is closed and I run my scans and I put together a watch list. I will have some long ideas and generally some short ideas on the watch list, and I don't care what direction the market trades. I have ideas that are suitable for a weak market or a strong market. We're going to have some long and some short ideas. So first thing we're going to do here is we're going to take a look at the long biased scans in the top left corner, and then we'll flip through some of the short scans. Let's see. Alright, so let me see here. WCIC is the first one on the scanner. Not really a tremendous setup here or anything. What I do like, though, is that it is attempting, or at least it appears to be, WCIC, at least it appears to be maybe making a small trend reversal as it climbs over the 20 EMA. Earnings is behind us here, back in February 17th. So looking at the 2-year chart, we can see that it is coming up off the lows. Let's put in some lines here. Looking at this over $18, was resistance from today. High of today was 18, which is also going to be previous support from back here in January. Looking for a potential move here to $19 is pretty clear, pretty defined move. We'll see support from back in January and early February. Will now act as resistance potentially. If we zoom out, we might find that we actually have room all the way up to short term, about 1940, which is also where the 50 moving average sits. The only downside on this trade is that the volume on it is extremely light. It trades 167,000 shares today. Now this scan has a minimum criteria of 150,000 shares average 5-day volume, so this is definitely the last week or so we've seen some pretty big volume spikes coming after earnings, but it looks like it's tapering off. So we'll keep this on watch here as a potential. We'll see if we can't find some better long setups though. Okay, BBT, very similar pattern. This is a bank. Not really a fan of this chart overall. If you look, there's a lot of gaps in it from back here in August, and this thing just is not a very clean chart. I don't like trading banks or financial instruments or financial names. Okay, this is a much more desirable setup here. This is a gap filler. Everybody can see that pretty big gap from back on November 19th, it looks like. That was probably their last earnings event, if I had to guess. Let me pull it up here on nope. Yep, that was earnings from back on November 19th. And we see this big move down here. It's starting to break out finally, attempting to make a move back into the gap. Strong market really could propel this thing a lot higher. Pretty defined room up to about 22 bucks, with a little bit of a resistance right in through here. So looking at this particular setup, the high of day was 1991. The high of this whole post-gap region is 1975. After 1975, this thing is, or after 1975, this thing moved firmly into the gap, closed in 1987. The entry on this would potentially be over $20. Get over that whole dollar mental resistance area. And we'd look for a push to 2068, and then a push back up to the 21.90, $22 area. You can tell this thing hasn't had a lot of alerts, long alerts in the past here. It has recently had 4, but beyond that, there was only 1 or 2 in the last year. Let me see. Unfortunately, this does have earnings coming up on March 3rd, so I will not be trading this. I don't like trading stocks ahead of earnings reports. We don't want to end up holding this through earnings. We don't want to be caught up in accidental earnings release, so we will have to pass on this name. Earnings are just too volatile for a swing setup. Too cheap. IVC curling up off the bottom here. Another interesting setup. Not bad for a potential reversal trade. Not the cleanest long chart, but as a reversal, definitely have some room back to 14 bucks. But definitely, like I said, not a clean chart. We have a ton of names that hit on the scanner today. Obviously, the long scanner produced a lot of results. The market was up nearly 2.5%. So we're going to have our pick of the crop. So no reason to choose unwisely. Okay, we're already long some oil and gas, so we are not going to trade oil and gas. NAV, this was on the scanner yesterday as well. It has earnings coming up also March 3rd. Other than that, it's a nice setup. I really wish this didn't have earnings coming. I would look to take this trade over 9 bucks here for a pretty quick move back to 9.87, 9.90. Be good for a day trade over $9. More banks. A lot of stocks that have been selling off with the market for the past few months are making these little attempts here, the consolidation while the market's been consolidating, and now they're trying to poke their head up over the moving averages, giving us a reversal of the trend, right? When they're trading below the moving averages, it's a downtrender. When they're trading above the moving averages, it's an uptrend. And these areas of crossover can be very volatile. You can see on a day like today, this thing tried to poke up over the 50 here, but it was swatted back down. Who knows what's going to happen here, but you can expect a lot of the stocks that look like this, that are selling off to the downside, to start curling back up if the market is able to keep moving up as well. Looking at the potential here. This is, again, not another great setup. Somewhat extended since early February. We're up 40%. plenty of room to go higher. Let me see the earnings are behind us. Back here on this day, we have this nice flag pattern, this nice bull flag pattern here with this little top, a pop breakout over the top. Now we're tapping this area here at 1329, 1330, which also happens to coincide with an area of resistance and support back through here. So not the cleanest of charts. We'll keep going, see if we can find something a little bit cleaner. And we'll know it when we see it. We don't have to settle. There's going to be plenty of trading opportunities. We don't have to force ourselves to settle for lower probability setups. Sometimes it's okay to not trade at all. Just never want to force anything. Okay, so this is trading at resistance right here. What is that, 1770 or so? This previous support is now acting as resistance here. There's not really a clean, identifiable entry spot on this chart. Big support from back in here. Let's see what the potential upside is here. If we can justify a trade on it, we can get to 1860. We can get about a point out of this before we hit our next resistance area, which also coincides with the stuff back here. 1830 to 1860, not the cleanest setup here, guys, and not a really clean entry opportunity either. Alright, CGI, this one's been on watch for quite a while, or been on watch before. It failed to trigger. Let's see. Alright, coming off of earnings in January, we're clear. This is not a bad look. This is kind of like the Navstar setup here, where we're big downtrend, whole market's moving down, everything's moving down, market starts trading sideways, this thing starts gaining a little bit of traction, and as the moving averages start to converge here, we're pinching this area where it's time to shit or get off the pot. So what'll happen here is we'll either break out to the upside over this 990 area, and we'll get a return back to $11 or so short term. So here is an interesting setup. I do like this. We have to. It was on watch back here when it was flagging out, and it did briefly break over it, but then it dropped back down. We never traded this. I do like this for a potential long entry over 940. The 50 EMA is at 946. Maybe we can say over 945. This would be a good spot to start accumulating a position. We would definitely look to add to our position over. That will be our entry, and we'll look to add to our position here. Oops. What's happening? Once we get to 995. And I think ultimately we could see probably an $11 target on this. So let me get rid of this line. Okay, so looking at this here, it hits off the scanner, this big high relative volume push up. They make this 4% move. On the day, we close near the highs. It means the buyer stayed in control at the end of the day here. This thing has a lot of room to the upside, potentially. If you look at the ATR of 46 cents, it would only take, a day and a half. 2 days, 2.5 days, potentially to take out this $11 target. We're free and clear of earnings. We're coming off of a decent earnings, and we're definitely looking for the bullish move. We might see some shorts start to cover if we can get a bullish move up and over the moving averages, which is important because, like I said, it can signal trend reversal, right? Nobody will question in the whole world of the stock market at any point ever that this thing started in a downtrend once it crossed through these moving averages right here. There's not one trader who will ever tell you that this is not in a downtrend since last year. So once we get a pretty obvious move back up and over the moving averages here, this is the closest they've been since they crossed bearishly up at the top here. Now they're ready to cross bullishly at the bottom, and this is just a very obvious opportunity for me. So we don't know what's going to happen, but we like the setup, and so we're going to put this on watch. And I'm going to say that CGI, great setup for a bullish cross for the EMA's second attempt in a couple weeks. This was on watch a couple weeks ago. Okay, we're looking for a long entry over 945. Okay, we'll consider adding some at 971. And 995. Now you also have the option to take full size at the outset of this trade, and you know that you're probably going to hit resistance at $10 here, right? It's the high of this range. It's this little spike up in here, and a 50-cent return is not bad. What I'll look to do here is I'm going to have 50 cents of risk, so I'm going to hold till at least we get the $10 mark here, and depending on the price action, how soon we test that area, how strong, all the other conditions of the market, we'll either consider scaling out, paying ourselves a little bit there, or adding for that move to $11. Because once we get over $10 here, it's pretty 10, 15 will be pretty smooth sailing to $11. So we'll evaluate it at that time. But for right now, we're going to say long over 945. Add spots are at 971 and 995, depending on the condition of the trade. Stop will be $9 initially. Target short term is going to be $11, 1104, I guess. Close enough, right? When we put our targets down, it's not do or die at those spots. It's just a general guide for us. We're looking to take profits, scaling into strength and scaling out of strength every 3 to 5%. We're taking profits on the move. Very systematic. Okay, so that's CGI on watch again for the second time in 2 weeks. We will flip through some more. Invesco is a financial firm, but generally I don't like trading them. However, the setup is somewhat appealing. We have pretty clear defined room between $28 and $30. Let's see. Okay, so we're coming off the lows here. The problem is this is going to be sympathetic to the market, so really what the market is doing, you're going to see financials tend to do, right? They have such a stake in market performance that it's going to be hard for them to do their own thing unless there's a specific catalyst in play or another event. They had earnings back in January, so they're okay. We are getting this cross here of the 20 EMA, the first time since we broke down under it in the beginning of the year. This is the first time we've made an effort to close above the 20. Very respectable here. Also happens to be at an area of previous support here. You can see this $28 area acted as a pivot. Well, this is somewhere I might consider taking a small starter on. We'll put this on the Plan B watch list just in case there's absolutely no other good setups, and then we might consider a trade on that one. Okay, what is this? This is CSII. Traded this one before, or at least we had it on watch. You can see this line from God knows when. This thing was at 24 bucks the last time we looked at it. Now it's down here at $8, coming off the lows at $7.50. Little pivot down there. Don't know what the story is on the stock just yet. We had this test of the 20 EMA, right? First time in 2016 where we really tested this in any bullish manner, and we failed it. We got a close below the 20. We popped up over it, closed below it. So this one would be an interesting one on watch over $9. But this thing is not a very bullish stock. We have room here to like $10, and then we're into the gap. I do like this for potential move into the gap after $10, but it's just really weak looking chart. I'll put this with IVZ. Backup stock. Keep an eye on this one. We'll put it on the match or watch list and see how it plays out over the next few days. LGF, Lionsgate Entertainment. This thing's popping up here again. Another stock rearing its head for the first time in 2016 since November 2015, making an effort to push over the 20, just now starting to do so. Again, like I said, a lot of this is attributed to what's going on in the market. So I don't know how much of it I trust, but not bad room on this. It does have a $1.24 ATR, and it trades 2.6 million shares, so it is very liquid. We definitely have clearly defined room to 24.50, right? That's support up in here before the gap down, and then all the way back here in April of 2014, it was support on this day here. So we have a clearly defined support area. Previous support will become future resistance. So our target for this stock to return to will be 24.50. It's at 22.40 right now. Today's high of day was 22.43. Oh, excuse me, it's at 22.01. And today's high of day was 22.43. So that means we need to wait 42 cents to get back to the highs and possibly push higher here. That's kind of leaving a lot on the table to get that candle over candle confirmation, but it does have a $1.24 ATR, so that could give us potential of about 80 cents on the day here, which would put us at 23.20 or so. We should be able to get somewhere into this no man's land right here where we're not seeing a lot of resistance, and then maybe the next day we'll get that push to 24.50. So this might be worth it. Have to give it a little bit of room initially, and we can size in once we make our move. So let me check on their fundamentals here. Make sure there's not earnings or anything we're bumping into. Alright, it was earnings event that moved down back on February 4th, so we are looking, let's check one other thing here. Okay. Alright, I do like this setup. It is marginally better than the last few we've looked at. So we're going to put it out there as an option. 22.42, so the high is 20. So our entry is over 22.43. So I will be watching LGF for a return to clearly defined resistance at 24.50. Looking for an entry starter over 22.43. I'm going to put my stop at 22. We'll consider adding once we get over 23. Okay, I don't want to take full size out of the gate because it is a little bit bigger of a mover, and I do have to wait 40 cents to get my entry, so I'm going to wait till the trade is trending in my favor. I'm going to understand that this is probably not one I'm going to take thousands of shares of, just because I am going to have to get a late entry on it, but that's the cleanest way. I would rather make less money on the trade, but have a higher probability of winning than get in sooner on a speculative entry and end up taking an unnecessary loss. So I will sacrifice profit for higher probability just about every day of the week. Okay. So let's take a look at the next few. The ECN. This is another decent looking setup here. It is coming up on resistance here at 38.77. Then after that we have room to 40.70. Oh no, I missed one. We'll have room the 39.50. Very bullish move here, right, with this giant move down, rejection, nice recovery, a pop up and over all the EMAs here, nice hold. Everything's holding together. What's the story on this stock? This isn't the most bullish setup, but that rejection of the low and also the previous history of big moves, right? Huge move up, huge move down, relatively big move up makes this thing interesting for a potential ride. Coming off of earnings was right here on this big move down. Big massive volume. It's been tapering off ever since. So just trying to find an entry here. I'm trying to negotiate an entry. I have to take into account the ATR. I have taken into account our first target being relatively close. And I have to find somewhere that I can definitively say, yes, this is a better spot to enter this trade than just arbitrarily buying it open on market, buying it market on open, because this is a resistance level or it's a previous candle's high or whatever. So I have to have some sort of definitive mechanism there to give me that confidence in this trade. This thing closed right at support. You can see, right at resistance here. You can see this little top back in here in November 2015 was a resistance spot, and now that's right where this thing kind of halted today. So I can't say. My concern is that tomorrow morning the market is going to gap up. It's gapping up after hours a little bit right now, and if the market gaps up, this thing's going to open up at 38 bucks, and it's going to be a waste of time to even put on the watch list because I won't trade a gapper, but for a swing trade. But what we can do here is we can say that we're looking at this over. We'll say over 37.80 for a starter. And oftentimes it's how we have to negotiate these things, right? We'll take smaller stabs because we don't have as much of a defined entry. So we'll look to take a starter on this over looking for a long starter over 37.80. Add spots. Add spot is going to be over 38. That'll get us in the trade a little bit sooner, and we'll be able to keep a better average. Because we are going to run into resistance right here at 38.67. So add spot over 38, and then stop will be 37. God damn, something in my eye. We'll put our stop at 37.25. Okay, first target is 38.70. And then 39.50 short term. So that's the realistic range over the course of 2 or 3 days. I think that this potentially has. Definitely has. So market holds up. This is one of those that could keep going. So update that. All right, I'm going to take another looky here. We'll flip through a couple more for the long setups. I don't need to have 300 long setups every day. It's not really helpful. I like to focus on 2 or 3 and then 2 or 3 short setups, and if the market is, whatever the market gives us is how we react accordingly. Wisdom tree here. Another interesting setup here as we're breaking out over this top at 1230. You can see we tested it multiple times over the past month or so. It's just poking its little head up. I'm going to need to get over this guy right here, which is also where the 50 EMA is at $13. So I think that's probably going to be some issue. Maybe this thing tomorrow pops up and hits 13. Over $13 though. So there's your resistance right here, and there's your resistance right here. It was support back in this day, and it was resistance on this day. Previous support became future resistance. And then once we get through that area, it's pretty defined move. Back to, I don't know, 1380 or so. Because this previous support area will be previous future resistance over here. But this is not really set up yet. This is a little premature. None of these. NVIDIA. Very close to the highs at 34 bucks here. Novio. INO, this has always been a fun one. Potential for some really big moves. The setup here is what I would say becoming very bullish as wedges forming, right? And we're either going to have to break out of the top of it or the bottom. So I don't know which way it's going to go. But looking at this chart, you definitely got room up to 720, 715 or so. All right, I'm going to check some of my other scans here. I have 4 right here, my reversal scans. That's a new scanner I've been working on. Oh, that's really helpful. Look at that. What? Wow. What's going on here? That's pretty strange. I wanted to see some of my bottom bounces that these are all top reversals. We'll go over some of these today. Oh, here's a new one I wanted to look at, WHR. Okay, WHR. This one has been a previous, I've had previous luck with this name. It's a little bit more expensive, but this is one that we could, let me just check on options here. Not the most liquid, but we can definitely consider a spread or something here. Looking at WHR, they are coming off earnings back in January. This thing has just kind of been sidewinding higher here. It's now at the 200 moving average. If it breaks out over, it's got room somewhere in through the 170 area. It's also just off of major support. There's not a lot here that shows me anything to, other than the move in about 2.5 weeks here, moved about 23%. Other than trading at this particular resistance area, which also happens to be near the 200. Not so sure that this thing will come in. It does have a wide ATR. It's 4.20, and therefore can move quite a bit on you. But definitely keep an eye on this for potential short. It's not really a favorite setup of mine. So I'm going to look for some other names here. Now we are in VTR. I took a starter on this yesterday. Look at this thing. From the bottom to the top, in just about 2 weeks, we've moved 23%. And this thing is just blowing through moving averages. I've never seen anything last. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 green days in a row is not very common. We are coming up to pretty big resistance here at $58. So we'll consider adding here at the $58 mark. Maybe it gets up to $58.60, but I think at $58 we might see it come back and test the 200 moving average. So we'll look to scale up on this. Just have to play it by ear. Very strong, very strong. So we're in VTR. HCN was another one. Had it on watch. Again, market is strong. This thing is ripping from the lows to the highs, which is about 25% in the same amount of time. Testing the 200 today. Just ridiculously strong. Looking for retracement. Probably back to reality, $63, 64 bucks will be the first target, and then we'll look for more realistic return to $62.40. This one is still on watch. I'm carrying it forward. I did not enter a position on this today. We'll be on watch tomorrow. And then also TSN, another one that had this ridiculous move up and is kind of trading sideways now, just over our average. So we're down about 20 cents on this one. Waiting for it to get back to the 62 level here, and I'm not going to let it get out of control, but giving it a little bit of room, and we will see where that takes us. So HCN is definitely going to be on watch tomorrow. WHR I'm not too excited about, and PAYC is another one just ripping up off the bottom here for a total move of about 47%, 50%. Now banging its head on resistance, long-term resistance here, but it doesn't seem to care. So I would expect once things turn around on this one, I would expect to see it potentially a move down to the $30 area. Would be the first real target here. Got support, and then these triple bottoms over here. So this is an interesting scan. It's an interesting idea. We know that reversal trades have a decent probability of success in the chat room if you're day trading them appropriately, applying the rules. We're basically just modifying that to a bigger time frame to deal with the daily chart, and we're kind of looking for the same sort of trade mentality here. All right, Liz says that Netflix may be a good call for next week. Netflix over $100. If you can cross over that. Okay. Netflix over $100 would be a good sign. Do they have? Let's see here. Are there any news or events on Netflix? Nothing until April for earnings. Okay. So what I'd consider here is I don't know if the market recovers. Certainly Netflix will break $100. That is almost a given. If the market fails at 200, Netflix could fail as well, or trade under this level in its range that it's been in, between 100 and $90 more or less. So would be interesting. Maybe this would be good for a bull put spread if it starts breaking over 100, and if not, you could consider other credit spreads if we expect it to trade between 100 and 90 for a while. We could look at an iron condor or something like that. So something also to keep in mind, but definitely watch it at that $100 mark. Also, conversely, if you think that Netflix has a good chance of breaking out or breaking down with the market, then you could consider a reverse iron condor. Let me check the IV on. Netflix has applied volatility rank of 50%, so it is neutral. Isn't really in a super volatile state at the moment. But over $100. So, yep, you got a couple options on how you might want to trade that one. We want to consider. Let's see here. What was I doing? Completely lost my focus. That's right, FAS and FAZ. So these are leveraged ETFs tracking the directionality of the market. And if you are bullish right now, these are basically ETFs that are going to trade weeklies. And there's a lot of good opportunities for iron condors, or reverse iron condors, or spreads. A lot of credit opportunities here, especially on the weeklies that move quickly, on leveraged ETFs. Some pretty fast opportunities to capitalize on some pretty high probability setups. If we think that the S&P is going to trade at the $200 area, let's pull the S&P up. I'm considering this trade for myself at present here. Let's see, we know the highs are up here. Those aren't in play. We know the lows are down here, and those aren't in play. We know that 200 is going to be a big psychological mark for the market. And we know that trading over this 195 area here was also a pretty big hurdle, right? Because we hadn't been over 195 since 2016 started. So now that we're over it, the next major hurdle is at the 200 mark. This could be something where we spend some time like we did back in August through October here, September through October, trading sideways in between 200 and 195. So we could see the same kind of thing before we break up or break down again. Don't know what's going to happen, but this is a great opportunity to capitalize on some of the volatility that this will create. And okay, and I want to flip through a few of my short list names here. I only have 10 of them today. The market was up, 46 points on the S&P, or 2%, at least 2% across the board of indices. So not a lot of items were moving down today. So the ones that are, we'll take a look at here and see if there's any short opportunities. Should tomorrow be a red day in the market. MDT here has this high volume. I'm guessing this was an earnings thing. Gap down, obviously. Tap 73. Why did it tap 73? I don't know. Probably because it's resistance from back over here. Probably resistance from all over the place. So then the buyers came in and they scooped it up off the bottom, and it closed, in the top 20%, top 10% of the intraday candle there. So not a bearish stock, even though it had bad earnings and it stopped under the 200 EMA. There's not really a clean, definable short setup in this particular trade over the next couple days. So Sykes Enterprises, SYKE. No. Oil and gas, we're already long oil and gas. We are looking to get called out of our buy right position there. Okay, gold. We're not trading gold. And then this looks like earnings also of some sort. Big sell-off, but once again, it closed 3 or 4 points off the lows. Not really in play for us. And this again, another one, gap down, big red volume spike, definitely an earnings play, I'm assuming. And then buyers came in down here at 38 and they bought it all the way back up to 40. So another one where it wasn't, the market was just so strong, people saw opportunity everywhere to spend money, and that is what they did. So on our short watch tomorrow, I'm going to have HCN, which is a carryover. This is a pretty obvious setup here. I mean, if you have to ask me why we would be watching this for a reversal, we'll have to have a long chat with yourself about what you're doing for a living. But this is clearly extended to the upside. However, keep in mind it is historically prone to longer runs. So, these runs are 15%. The last time it ran was 20%. And this time it has run 25%. So by far the biggest run. Just looking for a retrace. I'm not saying this is going back to zero. I'm just looking for the retracement here. I want to short it off resistance. It's trading just under 66 bucks right now. Want to see this thing back down around $62 ideally. Maybe it doesn't get that far. But this is something I think that if the market in the morning gaps up, it could, as we get closer to that $200 number, cause some weakness. We might see some selling at that $200 mark, some selling pressure come in. And I suspect maybe it'll take a day or two before we break that, if we break it at all. And that's where we're looking to capitalize on this. So if the market gaps up, so too shall this. And then as it comes back down through $66, we'll look to jump in it short. We'll add along the way as we break down candle under candle here. This thing hasn't had a candle under candle since the run started 25% ago. So that's what we're looking at. One more time to recap it here. We have CGI, LGF, and BECN on long watch. We have HCN on short watch. I'm going to put Netflix. I'm going to put Netflix on watch at the $100 mark. I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet. We'll see what happens tomorrow with the market and with Netflix, because we know that Netflix is just going to move with the market mostly. And then also we will look at putting on some either volatility, some kind of volatility spread, capitalizing on what should be probably a fairly volatile week as far as implied volatility goes for the indices. So I'll have more on that tomorrow night, I guess, once we figure out what happens tomorrow. And if you guys have any questions, as always, feel free to give me an email, jeff@warriortrading.com. I do personally respond to all of them, even though it might take me a while. Happy to do so. I hope everybody has a good night, and we'll see you back here next time.